a mysterious new security guard named Tunde starts work at the gate of a powerful Nigerian tech company. He's quiet, observant, and very unlike the others. Inside the gates, some mock him, but one intern notices something different. A test of humility begins. He opened the gate like he owned it, but no one saw the crown beneath the uniform. It was the hottest week of Harmattan, and the dust on Victoria Island moved like whispers between steel buildings and tinted jeeps. Outside the gate of Omofemi Holdings, the largest family-owned tech empire in West Africa, a new face stood beneath the security booth's rusted umbrella. He wore a faded green uniform, one size too large. His boots were dust-caked. His name tag said Tunde, but what stood out wasn't his clothes. It was his eyes, calm, sharp, calculating, like he was watching the world from above, not begging to be seen. Inside the lobby, the air was cooler, not just from the AC, but from the attitude. Who's the new gate man? Probably one of those village boys. He looks like he's never seen an elevator before. You think he even knows how to use a smartphone? The chuckles bounced between polished floors and gold-rimmed glass. Among the laughter stood Amara, the youngest intern in the building, 18, smart, quiet, and poor. Not the hidden kind, but the kind you wore on your shoes. She didn't laugh. She noticed. Every morning, Tunde arrived at 5 a.m. sharp. He didn't just stand, he cleaned. The front post, swept the leaves, adjusted the broken signage no one else touched. And when a driver dropped a file, Tunde picked it up, dusted it gently, and handed it back with 2 hands. There was dignity in the way he moved. Too much for a man earning minimum wage. The week passed. People kept ignoring him, but Amara, who took the same bus as the cleaners and drank sachet water outside, because the lobby cafe was members only, started saying good morning. The first time she did, he looked surprised. "Morning," he replied. A soft baritone, polite. On Thursday, the CEO's son, Bayo Omofemi, walked past him and scoffed. "You holding the gate or building a kingdom, bro?" The other guards laughed, but Tunde didn't flinch. He looked at Bayo and said nothing. Just opened the gate like royalty. Inside in the executive meeting, Mr. Omofemi, Bayo's father, was yelling about trust. "Someone is leaking product info," he barked. "If we can't control our house, we lose our empire. I want loyalty, from the bottom to the top." Outside that very moment, Amara dropped her laptop bag while, rushing in, a notebook flew out, pages scattered. Some guards looked, then looked away. Tunde bent down, helped her gather them, and even returned to a crumpled corner. "You forgot this," he said, handing her a sticky note. "Your idea looks smart. Don't let it get lost." Amara blinked. She'd written a prototype design. She never showed anyone. "How did you—" "I read fast," he smiled. The way he said it, not arrogant, just capable, made her stomach flip. Later that evening, Bayo's friends stood outside on their luxury bikes. One of them tossed an empty bottle near Tunde's post and said, "Do something useful. Clean this mess. Security." Tunde calmly picked up the bottle, looked the man dead in the eye. "You drop trash, you become trash." The man laughed. "Did you just threaten me?" "No," Tunde said. "Just advice." The others clapped and jeered, but Bayo's smirk vanished. For a split second, his eyes narrowed, like he recognized something he couldn't place. That night, Amara stayed late to finish some reports. As she stepped out, tired and hungry, she noticed Tunde still at his post. "You're still here?" she asked. "Someone has to keep the kingdom safe," he said, mock bowing. She laughed. "Well, your subjects are asleep." "Even more reason to protect them," he replied. "Evil doesn't wait for applause." Amara stared at him. This wasn't a man just looking for pay. He was watching everything, learning, testing. "Why are you really here?" she asked. Tunde tilted his head. "Why are you here, Amara?" She paused. "No one else calls me by name," she whispered. "I remember people who looked me in the eye. That night she couldn't sleep. She kept hearing his voice. Something about him, the calm, the way he handled disrespect like it meant nothing, reminded her of the stories her grandmother used to tell, of princes in disguise, of tests wrapped in rags, of thrones protected by silence. The next morning, a cleaner named Mama Funka whispered as she passed the booth, "That boy isn't normal." "Why?" asked another guard. "He gave me money for medicine, then tell me the exact brand to buy. How did he sabi that?" Tunde waved at Amara as she walked in. "Morning again, Amara," he said. "Still guarding the kingdom?" He nodded. "Until the right queen walks in." She blinked. What did that even mean? Inside, Bayo was yelling again. Something about being next in line. But outside, at the gate, the real future had already clocked in, and no one knew. Not yet. Amara walked through the main entrance, holding her breath. Every morning she passed the same marble tiles, glass elevator, and gold plaque that read, "Founded by family, run with purpose." But this place wasn't built for girls like her. Her phone buzzed, another text from her mom. "Amara, any lunch today? Should I wait?" She texted back, "I'll bring bread, maybe groundnut too. Love you." As she walked into the intern bullpen, she heard it, the click-click of high heels that always announced war. Kemi, daughter of a senator, intern in name, royalty in attitude, hair laid, nails sharp, and voice louder than reason. "Look who finally decided to show up," Kemi called, flipping her hair like a weapon. "Amara the Great, savior of all things irrelevant," the others chuckled. Amara smiled faintly, placing her laptop bag on the desk she shared with two others. Kemi leaned in. "So how's the gate man this morning? Still pretending you exist?" Amara turned. "Calm. At least he sees me. You just look in the mirror." Laughter cuts the tension like a blade. Kemi froze, her fake lashes twitching. "Excuse me? I said—" Amara stood, pushing her chair back. "You see what you want. I see what's real." Kemi narrowed her eyes. "Keep talking, it's cute. Poor girl with a big mouth." Before things got worse, the manager walked in, calling everyone to attention. Morning reports, schedules, chaos. The day moved fast, but Kemi never forgot a bruise to her pride. During lunch, Amara went outside like always. Not the fancy cafe, just the back stairs, with her 2 slices of bread and sachet water. That's when Tunde showed up. "You always eat alone?" he asked. She shrugged. Not everyone likes the smell of struggle. He sat beside her, still in uniform, legs stretched out. "You know," he said, "you remind me of mango trees." She raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because I'm tall and confused," he laughed. "Because people throw stones when they want the fruit. But mango trees don't fight. They just drop sweetness." Amara stared at him. "Who talks like that?" "My grandfather, he said, if you're born with values, stay calm. The world will shake your branches." She blinked. She didn't know whether to cry or write that down. Just then Kemi's voice rang out from behind the water tank nearby. She wasn't alone. 2 of her rich friends were with her. "Oh, wow," Kemi said, smirking. "So this is your vibe? Romance? With security guards now?" Her friends burst into laughter. Tunde stood up. Calmly, he looked at Kemi. Not angry, just disappointed. "You wear designer perfume," he said, "but it can't cover your insecurity." Silence. Even Kemi's friends stopped laughing. What did you say? I said. Tunde replied without blinking. People who need to step on others are always running from their own reflection. Amara's eyes widened. Kemi looked stunned. You're a security guard, she spat. Know your place. Tunde smiled. That's the thing. People like you confuse clothes with worth. Then he walked away. No shouting, no insults, just a clean, surgical humiliation. By the next morning, the whole office had heard. Security versus Senator's daughter was the headline in whispers. But here's the twist. Instead of pitying Kemi, people started noticing Amara more. Her design prototype, suddenly found on the team board. Her ideas, asked for in meetings. Her presence, no longer invisible. And Kemi. She smiled less, walked quieter. Ego bruised. One afternoon, Mr. Omofemi himself visited the intern room. His presence always brought chills. We're observing, he said. Some of you are growing. Some of you are hiding behind names. Then he turned to Amara. What's your name again? Amara Chaikere, sir. He nodded. Your pitch on mobile payment ethics. Was that yours? She swallowed. Yes, sir. Good work. Keep building. And just like that, she felt taller than the building. Outside, Tunde gave her a small nod as she passed. Looks like the mango tree is growing. Amara grinned. Thanks for the fertilizer. He chuckled. You did that yourself. But Kemi wasn't done. Pride never dies quietly. Later that week, a strange email went out, anonymous, claiming Amara had cheated on her reports, fabricated data. The HR was alerted. Everyone suspected Kemi. No proof. The company launched an internal check. Amara didn't cry. She stayed calm, but she was shaken. That evening, she found Tunde outside, polishing the gate lock. They think I'm a liar, she whispered. Then tell the truth with your work, he said. Let your results be your revenge. She looked at him. Why do you always talk like you've seen everything? He smiled. Because I have, just not in the way you think. She wanted to ask more, but something stopped her. A feeling, like he was holding back a storm behind those calm eyes. She walked away, but his words stayed. Let your results be your revenge. And for the first time, Amara realized something. The most powerful people don't scream. They observe. They build. They wait, and they choose their moment to rise. Amara sat in the HR waiting room, heart pounding. The walls were white, but the air was gray, thick with suspicion, power, and politics. She clutched her bag like it could protect her. Across the desk, Miss Ada from Compliance flipped through pages with the kind of calm that made people sweat. You're saying you didn't write false data. I'm saying someone else did, and used my name. Miss Ada glanced at her over the rim of her glasses. We'll see. Amara left the room, but shame followed like a shadow. Back at her desk, whispers floated around her like perfume smoke. Too faint to confront, too loud to ignore. Knew she was too good to be real. Maybe that gate man helped her cheat. They always act humble until you catch them. She forced herself not to cry. Not here, not in front of them. That evening, when the office emptied out and the sky darkened into Lagos orange, Amara sat on the concrete bench near the back parking lot, knees pressed together, hands trembling. She didn't hear him approach, but she smelled the familiar scent of earth, sweat, and faint lavender oil. Tunde. You're late, she said without looking up. He sat beside her. You're early for tomorrow. She laughed, dry and sharp. They think I'm a fraud. He didn't respond immediately. Just watched the sky for a long time. Do you know what birds do when a snake enters the nest? Amara shook her head. They don't scream. They rebuild. Somewhere higher. Somewhere the snake can't reach. She stared at him. Why do you always talk like you're older than you look? He shrugged. Wisdom doesn't wait for gray hair. She wanted to smile, but couldn't. I don't have connections. No rich uncle, no fancy name, just work. That's all I've got. Then protect it, he said. Truth doesn't shout, it reveals. Later that night, after Amara left, Tundi stayed behind. He pulled out a cheap-looking phone, not the one anyone had seen him use. This one was old, cracked, and full of secrets. He opened a folder labeled Gate Records, Manual Backup. Inside were screenshots, timestamps, gate logs, visitor reports, all handwritten, all photographed by him, including one odd detail. Kemi had accessed a restricted admin printer room, the same time Amara's fake reports were sent from there. The next morning, the security log accidentally ended up on Miss Ada's desk. No name attached, just an envelope. No fingerprints. By noon, HR had quietly closed the investigation, and by afternoon, the same whispers that tore Amara down were now spinning again. She's cleared. Someone planted the whole thing. Wait, it was Kemi? No, one said it directly. But silence, once again, made the loudest noise. Kemi avoided eye contact. Her father called the CEO, demanding to protect his daughter from rumors. But the damage was done. Trust had shifted, and in the lunch area, when Amara walked past the interns, some nodded. Others moved to make room. One even offered a meat pie. She declined. But the moment mattered. At the far end of the parking lot, Tunde stood beneath the jacaranda tree, watching from a distance. You did something, Amara said later, catching him during his shift, didn't you? Who, me? He asked with a smile. I just opened the gates. Right, she said. And apparently doors too, he chuckled. Your words, not mine. She leaned closer. Tell me something, Tunde. Who are you really? I'm the guy everyone looks past, he said, which makes me the only one who sees everything. That night, as the office lights dimmed and the street noise grew louder, Amara found herself writing again. Ideas flowed, confidence returned, but one thing had changed permanently. She no longer saw Tunda as just a strange, wise gate man. She saw him as something else. Someone playing a longer game. The next morning, when she brought 2 sachets of water instead of 1, she handed him one without speaking. He accepted it, nodded. Their silence was becoming a language. Later that week, a surprise announcement came. The Omofemi Innovation Challenge, open to all interns, drivers, janitors, and staff, regardless of rank. Submit a product idea, win a contract, and mentorship. Bio was furious. What kind of nonsense is this? Letting cleaners pitch ideas. But Mr. Omofemi stood firm. Genius has no title. And just like that, the playing field shifted. Amara had an idea. She just wasn't sure if it was good enough. Pitch it, Tunde told her later. Not for the prize, but for the mirror. What mirror? The one you face when you close your eyes. The only one that tells the truth. And for the first time in weeks, she believed him. Amara wiped her brow, staring at the glowing laptop screen in the intern's shared workspace. Her pitch deck was almost done. A decentralized payment tool for low-income farmers with no smartphone access. It used SMS, voice navigation, and could convert airtime into digital currency. A system born from watching her own mother struggle to send money back to their village. She knew it was solid, but the competition would be brutal. Kemi, somehow, had bounced back with a full PR-ready pitch, clearly built with agency help. Others had group submissions, mentorship, even seed funding from family. Amara had just an old laptop, 2 days left, and her determination. But every night, Someone sat with her under the jacaranda tree. "You know," she told Tunde as she typed, furiously, "if I win this, it could actually change my life." He leaned back on the bench, arms folded behind his head. "Then write like your life depends on it. You always have a line, huh?" "Wisdom doesn't get tired," she laughed. But inside the company's glass towers, Bayo wasn't laughing. He'd been watching the gate man, watching his quiet confidence, his sharp comebacks, the way he walked, moved, even the way he looked at people. "He's not a regular guard," Bayo muttered to his friend Uzo, sipping a cold bottle of malt. "What, you think he's a spy?" Uzo scoffed. "Something. He doesn't carry himself like someone who needs this job." Later that night, Bayo pulled strings. A quiet call to HR, a request to review all temporary hires. Within an hour, he had Tunde's file. No full name, no background check, just a signature from the CEO, hand approved. "Why would my dad personally approve of a gate man?" Bayo's jaw tightened. The next morning, Bayo came down from the top floor. He never did that. But this time, he stood directly in front of Tunde's booth. "You, what's your last name?" Tunde didn't flinch. "Does it matter?" "Depends on whether you're lying about who you are." "I haven't said who I am," Tunde said, gaze steady. "You're the one assuming." Bayo stepped closer. "You better be careful. People who play games at this level get crushed." Tunde smiled slightly. "That's the problem with power. You think people standing still aren't moving." For a brief second, Bayo saw something. Not fear, not arrogance. Control. He walked away, uneasy. Inside the office, Amara finally printed her final submission. Her fingers trembled as she walked to the submission box. She placed it in and whispered, "For Mama." Behind her, Kimmy walked up and fake smiled. "Hope your little charity project impresses the judges," she said. Amara turned. "It's not for them. It's for people who don't have your luxury." "Please." Kimmy rolled her eyes. "If you lose, don't cry. We're not all built for innovation." "I'm not built to quit," Amara replied. "That's the difference." Tunde heard the exchange from outside. He smiled quietly. The day passed. Submissions closed. That night, while Amara headed home, Bayo made his way to the CEO's private floor. His father was alone, reviewing files. "Dad, we need to talk." Mr. Omofemi didn't look up. "About the security guard." Mr. Omofemi finally raised his eyes. "What about him? Who is he?" Mr. Omofemi stood slowly, walked to the window, looked out at the distant lights of Lagos. "He's someone learning who deserves the empire I built." Bayo blinked. "What?" Mr. Omofemi turned back, voice cold. "He's your half-brother." Silence. The floor felt like it shifted under Bayo's feet. "You..." "What?" "He's my first son," the CEO said. "Born to the woman I should have married before your mother. But the board didn't approve, and I made the wrong choice." "You hid a brother from me, from the world." "I didn't hide him. He chose this path to earn respect, to see the company, the people, from the bottom, and to see if he still wanted it." Bayo's hands shook with fury. "So that's your idea of a test? You let him sweep gates while I'm busting my back building your ego," his father cut in. Bayo froze. Mr. Omofemi stepped forward. "You think titles build empires?" "No, character does. And Tunde, he has it." Back at the security booth, Tunde quietly locked up for the night. He glanced once at the CEO's window, just in time to see the silhouette of Bayo storming out. He knew the game had changed, but Tunde didn't panic. He just adjusted his uniform collar and whispered to himself, "Let the fire begin." And across town, Amara lay in bed, unaware of the war brewing behind the walls. All she knew was that tomorrow Her life might change, for better or worse. The results came early Monday morning, a list taped to the hallway bulletin board. Innovation finalists: Amara Chikir, Agripay Light Kemi Odu, Prestige Internship, App Musa Salami, Water Tracker for Schools, Estella George, Localized, Job Map System. There was a quiet pause before the whispers started. She made it. That farm girl. Maybe the judges wanted to look diverse or something. Kemi must be pissed. Amara stood frozen, rereading her name. Top of the list, top. It wasn't a dream. Her work, her story, had broken through the glass. Kemi passed by moments later, sunglasses on indoors. Congrats, she said flatly. Don't let it get to your head. They always let one charity case in. Amara didn't reply. She didn't need to. Her shoulders said it for her. That evening, while waiting outside for her bus, Amara walked up to Tunde's booth, eyes wide with excitement. I made it, she whispered. He nodded, smiling gently. So what's next? Pitch to the executive panel in 4 days. You ready? She exhaled. Almost. Then practice like you've already won. She paused, then asked what had been sitting on her tongue for days. Tunde, why are you really here? Ipo looked at her, long, silent, then said, because I'm tired of crowns that don't understand struggle. She didn't fully understand, but something in his voice, the weight, told her not to push. Inside the building, however, Bayo was doing the opposite of not pushing. He'd called a private meeting with 2 heads of department, both loyal to him. I need him gone, Bayo snapped. Quietly, without drama. You mean the security guard? He's not just a guard. He's a threat, but he hasn't broken any rules, one manager replied. Find a rule. The next morning, Tunde was called into HR. They claimed his paperwork was incomplete, that his phone use was excessive, that he was seen conversing with interns improperly. All vague, all planted, but when they told him he had 24 hours to respond before suspension, he just smiled and handed them a flash drive. Inside were recordings, footage, proof of interns harassing cleaners, Bayo making illegal phone calls. Even Kemi bribed a junior IT staffer to rig the finalist board. He said nothing, just nodded and walked out. HR didn't say another word. By afternoon, the whispers had returned, but this time they were about him. Did you hear? HR's terrified of the gate man. They said he walked in like a lion. Someone said he recorded Bayo. No way. Swear down. The next day, during a company-wide fire drill, all staff gathered outside, managers, interns, cleaners, drivers, and then came the voice, Tundes.com, on the megaphone. Ladies and gentlemen, please move calmly to the left. Safety is a team effort. No title required. People froze. No security guard had ever been handed the megaphone, except him. Even the fire safety officer stood aside. Bayo's jaw clenched as he watched Tunde command the crowd with quiet, practiced ease. When someone stumbled, he helped them. When a car was blocking the route, he directed it with confidence. People followed him. No questions, no hesitation. Afterward, as people returned inside, one of the senior directors leaned over to another and said, "That's not a gate man. That's a leader in training." That evening, Amara waited outside the booth again. This time she brought 2 packs of jollof rice. For the empire builder, she teased. He raised an eyebrow. What makes you think I want a kingdom? Because you protect one like you already have it. He smiled, took the food. They ate in silence for a while. Then she asked, "What scares you, Tunde?" "Entitlement," he replied instantly. "And people who think wealth makes them worthy." She stared at him. "You talk like someone who's been rich before." "I talk like someone who's seen what money hides." He didn't elaborate. She didn't press. But across the street, Bayo sat in his parked car watching. His hand gripped the steering wheel. He wasn't just annoyed now. He was threatened. This wasn't about the guard anymore. This was about losing control of perception, power, and possibly legacy. The elevator dinged on the 14th floor. A floor Amara had never been allowed on before. Polished marble, thick, silence, leather chairs and glass walls that watched everything. She adjusted her plain white blouse, wiped her palms against her skirt, and whispered a quick prayer under her breath. The Innovation Challenge pitch panel was waiting. Tunde had walked her to the building gate that morning. He didn't say much, just handed her a folded paper. Inside was one line: "You don't need their spotlight. You bring your own." She carried that in her heart. Inside the boardroom, 5 judges sat, including Mr. Omofemi himself. Amara stood behind the podium, laptop connected, slides ready. She took a deep breath. "My name is Amara Shakire. I come from a small farm town 2 hours outside this city. My idea is called AgriPay Lite, a payment platform that works without internet or smartphones. For people like my mother, who feeds 10 mouths but can't send money without a neighbor's help." There was silence. Then, slide 1, slide 2, slide 3. Her voice trembled once, but steadied. Her pitch was raw, clear, human. She spoke not like an intern, but like a daughter who had seen too much and decided to build something anyway. Halfway through, Kemi leaned into a judge and whispered, "Most of this sounds copied. There's a Kenyan app like this already." The judge raised an eyebrow but stayed quiet. Amara finished. "For me, innovation isn't about looking new. It's about working better. For the people who are ignored." She stepped back. Mr. Omofemi folded his arms. "Tell me, Miss Chaikea, if your tool fails, who takes the blame?" "I do," she said, steady. "Because leadership means taking hits for people who don't even know you're fighting." A pause. Then a clap. From the corner of the room, not a judge, but Tunde. He'd walked in silently wearing his uniform, holding a tray of bottled water, as if he was just another assistant. One of the directors frowned. "Security is not allowed in here," but Mr. Omofemi didn't flinch. "Let him stay." Kemi stood suddenly. "Excuse me, why is he even in this room? He's just—" "Careful," Mr. Omofemi interrupted. "That 'just' has more meaning than your whole resume." The silence was suffocating. Bayo watched from the corner, burning. Tunde finally stepped forward. "If I may, one of the..." The panelists nodded. Tunde turned to Amara. "I was at the gate when your mother came to visit last month. She brought you food and said, 'Don't forget who you are, or why you're here.'" Amara blinked, surprised. "You remembered that?" "I remember people who build instead of begging." He looked back at the panel. "You're searching for leaders, builders, not brands, not polish. If innovation doesn't come with humility, it collapses under ego." Mr. Omofemi smiled. "Thank you, Mr. Tunde," he replied with a slight bow. "Just Tunde." But Bayo had had enough. He stood, voice sharp. "He's not just Tunde. Tell them who you really are." Tunde didn't respond. So Bayo shouted, "Heats, your bastard son." The air shattered. One judge gasped. Another choked on her coffee. Kemi's jaw dropped. Amara turned, stunned. Tunde sighed, stepped forward. "My name is Tunde Adedayo Omofemi, firstborn son of Adewale Omofemi. And yes, I chose this uniform." People stared. No one blinked. Mr. Omofemi stood. "It wasn't a secret," he said. "It was a test. And now the whole company knows who passed." He turned to the panel. "AgriPay. Light wins the challenge." Applause broke out. Not loud, but heavy. like rain on a metal roof. Amara covered her mouth, overwhelmed. Kemi sat down, defeated. Bayo stormed out. Later that evening, Amara and Tundi stood outside together again under the jacaranda tree. She was still trying to process it. "You're the CEO's son? I'm the gate man," he said. "And the heir. But titles don't change the truth." She looked at him, eyes searching. "You knew all this time?" "Yes." "And you still watched me struggle?" "I needed to see if you'd rise without help. Because if you did, you'd be someone worth rising with." She didn't know whether to slap him or hug him. Instead, she whispered, "You're ridiculous." He grinned. "But effective." They stood in silence as the sun dipped, Lagos lights blinking awake, and for once, neither of them felt small. Amara sat in a new office, with her name on the door, her own door. Innovation Development Fellow, AgriPay Project Lead. It still didn't feel real. The tiny room wasn't much. One desk, a window, and a plant she didn't ask for. But it was hers. And on the inside wall, she'd pinned a folded piece of paper. "You don't need their spotlight. You bring your own," she smiled. But success, she learned quickly, had sharp edges. In just 1 week, her inbox filled with interview requests, partnership proposals, and LinkedIn messages from strangers who suddenly believed in her vision. People who didn't say her name 2 weeks ago were now dropping it like confetti, but not all attention felt good. Her laptop was once borrowed and found in the men's bathroom, water damaged. Her access badge glitched, only hers. Someone even leaked a fake tweet claiming her project was stolen tech. Corporate envy had arrived. She didn't break, but it wore on her. One evening, while she stared out her tiny office window, Tunde knocked, still in uniform. "You have windows now," he said. "Still feels like I'm looking through glass," she murmured. He walked in, sat across from her without asking. "I warned you. People want crowns, not the weight that comes with them." She nodded. "You're right. But I didn't expect it from everyone." He smiled gently. "You expected success to mean applause?" "I guess. I hoped it would mean less struggle. No, it just changes the battlefield." They sat quietly. Then Amara asked the question that had been burning since his reveal. "So, what now, Prince of the Parking Lot?" He laughed. "Now? I keep watching. You're not taking your father's throne?" "I don't want the throne. I want to fix what sits under it." And just like that, she saw it. He didn't want to rule. He wanted to rebuild. Later that night, Tunde attended his first boardroom meeting in a tailored black suit, not a uniform. The room fell silent when he entered. Some executives avoided eye contact. Others stood immediately. He didn't speak at first, just placed a small notebook on the table. "This company has 14 departments," he began. 4 are overfunded, 5 are understaffed, and 3 are led by people who haven't submitted proper performance audits in 6 months. He looked directly at the director of operations. "I should know. I swept their floors." The man flinched, and, "Let me be clear," Tunde continued. "This isn't revenge. It's rebalancing. My father built an empire. I'm just fixing the stairs." One of the older board members whispered to another, "We were never meant to face someone like him." In the lower levels of the building, whispers spread faster than printer paper. "He's in the boardroom now." "Wait, in a suit?" "Bro, I saw him at the vending machine with the CFO." "Yo, the gate man's running the game." The nickname started trending internally, Crown in uniform. Meanwhile, Amara kept her head down and her work honest. She started building a small team, not from the elite internship pool, but from overlooked staffers, a janitor who knew UX better than the design lead, a shy assistant with a background in rural microfinance. A driver who'd done logistics for a startup before life forced him behind the wheel. She was building a team that looked like Nigeria, not just its capital. One day, while showing Tunde her updated prototype dashboard, she looked at him and asked, "Why do you help me so much?" He stared at the screen for a while, then said, "Because you remind me of my mother. She built everything from scraps and still smiled like she owned the world." Amara blinked. The weight of that hit was different. Later, while walking to the exit, a young intern stopped her. "You inspire me," the girl said. "They used to laugh at me for not speaking English well, but now they listen." Amara smiled. "Then speak louder." Change was happening, slow, silent, but deep, and not everyone liked it. In a private corner of the building, Bayo met with two key allies, both senior, both bitter. "He's replacing us," one said. "He's reversing everything we built," another added. Bayo lit a cigarette and smiled darkly. "Then it's time we remind him that blood doesn't make loyalty." The game wasn't over. It had just begun. The office had changed, not in design, but in energy. People stood straighter when Tunde walked by, not out of fear, but respect. Others, though, tightened their lips, hiding resentment beneath professional smiles. Tunde had begun shifting budgets quietly, approving grassroots ideas, and dissolving ghost projects that drained company funds. The old guard, the ones who built power through backdoor favors and title protection, were on edge. But it wasn't just him. Amara, too, had started to grow wings. AgriPay Lite had attracted outside attention. Small banks, local NGOs, even a regional investor group wanted to partner. It was more than she dreamed, more than her mother ever imagined when she used to count change under a flickering bulb back home. But that's when the offer came. A man in a clean-cut navy suit walked into her tiny office. "Miss Chaikea," he said with a perfect British Nigerian accent. "I represent Apex Core Capital. We'd like to purchase partial rights to AgriPay Lite, distribution, licensing, and scaling across all of ECOWAS." Amara blinked. "How much?" "And non 20 million naira plus monthly residuals. You'd still be lead consultant, just not the final voice." It was a dream number, a life-changing figure. She could move her mother to the city, pay off every debt, build a school back home, live without fear, but lose her vision. She asked for time. That night she found Tunde sitting on the rooftop garden, rarely used, always quiet. He was staring at the city lights, sipping water from a flask. "Have you ever been offered everything you thought you wanted?" she asked, sitting beside him. "Yes," he said. "And?" "I realized it wasn't what I needed." She exhaled. "They want to buy it. The app, for a lot of money." He didn't flinch, just nodded. "And what do you want?" "I want to help people who never get helped, not just sell the shell of it to people who'll forget the soil it came from." He smiled. "Then you already know the answer." "But my mom..." "She didn't raise you to give up your name for a check." Amara stared at him. "You always sound like you've lived 5 lives." "Maybe I have," he said, standing. "Or maybe I just paid attention during the first one." She laughed. But elsewhere, shadows were moving. Bayo sat with one of the board members in a darkened conference room. "It's time we hit him where it hurts," Bayo whispered. "How?" "Expose the girl. Leak documents. Make it look like she's been selling secrets to investors behind the company's back." "She hasn't. She doesn't need to have. We just need to make it look like she did." The man nodded slowly. "Collateral damage?" "She'll bounce back," Bayo said, waving it off. "But he'll break." The next morning, Amara walked into chaos. Emails forwarded, screenshots flying. A fake contract file sent to the board anonymously, claiming she'd already signed with Apex Corp behind Omofemi Holdings' back. Within minutes, she was summoned to court. The room was thick with distrust until the door opened and Tundi walked in. He carried a folder. "Before we begin," he said calmly, "I'd like to submit verified timestamps, server logs, and access trails." The head of legal frowned. "You hacked the system." "No," Tunde said. "I built it 4 years ago, before I ever wore this uniform." The silence was immediate. Tunde placed the folder on the table. "Here's proof the file was edited using a company insider account. The same account that booked 2 ghost contractors last quarter, which I flagged last week." Eyes widened. The head of legal opened the folder, blinked. "Director Olamide's login?" "And Bio approved the funding," Tunde added, calm as ever. Amara just stared. "They tried to ruin her. And he blocked it with quiet fire. By the end of the day, Bio's office was locked. His access was revoked. Internal audit launched. The board was silent, not in protest, but in awe. No yelling, no press conference. Tunde had just moved. Amara stood on the staircase that evening, watching him walk past. "You saved me," she said. He paused. "You saved yourself." "I just reminded them you were worth hearing." She didn't speak, just watched him disappear into the hallway shadows, and thought, loyalty doesn't need a spotlight, it just needs a spine. The invitation came in a black envelope, thick like leather. Gold lettering, formal seal, Omofemi Holdings, Executive Transition Ceremony, Joint CEO Inauguration. Amara read it twice, heart thudding. She waited outside the gate that evening, holding the envelope. Tunde walked out slowly, still in uniform. "Despite everything, they want you to be CEO," she said. "They want me to wear a name I already rejected," Amara started. "I don't get it. You're already doing the work. Why not take the title?" He looked up at the sky, hands behind his back. "Because titles attract shadows, and I've spent my whole life running toward the sun." "But you deserve it," he nodded. "Which is why I won't beg for it." The next day, he didn't show up to the office. No one knew where he went. Even his father, Mr. Omofemi, made a public statement saying, "Tunde is free to accept or decline. His legacy is already speaking louder than any press release." Amara couldn't focus, so she did what her instinct told her. She traced him to where it began. A 2-hour bus ride out of Lagos to a quiet town with dustier roads, older air, and the kind of sun that burned through time. She found the house by asking 3 street vendors. A gray gate, peeling paint, a small garden full of yam vines and hibiscus. A woman opened the door, tall, elegant, mid-60s. She wore a faded wrapper and dignity like perfume. "You're looking for my son," she said before Amara could speak. Amara nodded. "I'm Amara," the woman smiled. "I'm Mama Tunde." They sat in the small living room. No AC, just a ceiling fan and 2 framed pictures. One of a young boy in a school uniform, one of a woman holding a trophy. "He doesn't like spotlights," Mama Tunde said, pouring Zobo into a chipped glass. "Never did. Even as a boy." He sat at the back, but always finished first. Amara sipped quietly, eyes wandering. "You raised him alone?" "For a while. Then with books. He learned faster than I could guide. Started fixing radios at 11, rewiring homes by 14. Won a scholarship to university before he even knew how to tie a tie." She paused, eyes glistening. "His father sent money, gifts, but never time." Tunde didn't want the name. He wanted the presence. Amara blinked. "And now he's walking into the same company, with the same last name." Mama Tunde chuckled. "No, he's walking with his name. What the world puts on him after that, that's their business." Amara stayed for hours. They ate akara, talked politics, shared silence. When she left, "Mama," Tunde handed her a letter. "Give him this," she said. "He'll understand." Back in Lagos, Tunde returned the next morning, early, quiet, unchanged. He wore his uniform one last time. He walked straight to the CEO's office, past gasps and stares, past a secretary too shocked to speak. Inside, his father stood waiting. "You missed the ceremony," Mr. Omofemi said. Tunde placed the black envelope on the desk. "I came for work, not the throne. You could change. Everything from the top. I already am. From the ground," his father started, then nodded slowly. "Then let's do it your way." They shook hands, not as father and son, as two men, finally meeting on the same road. Outside the office, Amara handed Tunde the letter. He read it quietly, then folded it into his back pocket. "What did she say?" Amara asked. "That I still walk like I'm carrying the world. And," he smiled, "she told me to put it down sometimes. Let someone else carry part of it." Amara smirked. Maybe she meant me. Maybe she did. They stood side by side as interns walked by, whispering, the prince and the builder, the gate man and the innovator, the future. But neither of them looked back, because for the first time, they were walking forward, together. They didn't expect him to keep the booth. Tunda, now publicly acknowledged as co-leader of Omofemi Holdings, chose to leave the massive corner office untouched. Instead, he spent his mornings at the same tiny gate station where he once stood in dusty boots, watching cars pass him without a glance. Only now there was a plaque outside it, the People's Office. Every voice begins here. At first, people thought it was for show, a PR stunt, until employees started noticing what happened there. Cleaners came with ideas, drivers came with complaints, interns dropped off reports no one else had read, and Tunde listened, took notes, made changes. The hierarchy didn't collapse, it evolved. Meanwhile, inside the sleek presentation hall, Amara stood before a digital map. Behind her, her team of misfits, the janitor with UX skills, the quiet finance girl, the ex-driver turned logistics. Guru today was the pilot launch of AgriPay Lite, a soft rollout in 2 rural areas. Minimal tech, pure practicality, SMS-based transactions, voice feedback in local dialects, data upload once per day, real solutions, real people, real impact. As she clicked through slides, executives nodded, but one face remained stone cold. Director Femi, one of Bayo's former allies. After the presentation, he approached Amara. "Impressive," he said with a tight smile. "But we'll need to monitor this rollout very closely." "Of course," Amara replied politely. "Too much ambition can burn the very house you're trying to light up." She smiled back. "Then maybe it's time the house installed better. Wiring." He didn't reply, but the tension stayed. 2 days later, the pilot system failed in Ogun State. Transactions froze. User feedback vanished. Farmers started calling local agents in frustration. Word spread that the system ate money. Sabotage. Her team traced the breach, a corrupted line of code inserted into the back end. It had come from inside the company server, not externally, internally. Amara stared at the screen, fists clenched. Someone still wanted her to fall. She called a meeting. Her team waited, anxious, tired, angry. She stood at the head of the table. "We don't panic. We rebuilt, line by line, message by message. Every farmer, every agent, every code block. We don't fold, we double down." Nobody moved. Then, slowly her lead engineer nodded. "Let's get to work." They stayed all night. By morning, the bug was fixed. The system reset. A mass voice message went out in 3 dialects. "AgriPay Lite is back, and it remembers you." When Tunde heard what happened, he walked straight to Director Femi's office. No knock. Femi looked up, smiling falsely. "Tunde, what a surprise." Tundi dropped a file on the desk. Audit logs, server logs, access times. Femi didn't even open it. You're digging graves. I'm planting trees, Tunde replied. You think this company belongs to you now? No, he said. I think it belongs to the people who build it every day. Femi stood, voice rising. You think this fairy tale of yours, gate, man to king, will last? We ran to this place before you ever showed up. Exactly, Tunde said, calm. You ran it, but we're building it. The board didn't need another scandal. Femi was forced to take a sabbatical. Word spread fast. Amara's team received an official apology. Tunde walked into the innovation lab later that week, holding a white envelope. What's that? Amara asked. Approval. To make Agripay Light national, she stared. Seriously? Backed? Funded? Staffed? Fully? She laughed out loud. An honest, tired, victorious laugh. We did it. No, he corrected. You did it. I just kept the door open. She looked at him, eyes warm. I hope you never close it. I don't plan to. They sat under the same jacaranda tree again that evening. No uniforms, no fear, just quiet, just legacy. The press conference was set for Friday, a full-scale event. Media from all over West Africa, global business outlets, even influencers. Everyone wanted to hear the story. The security guard who changed the game. Tunde hated the title. He didn't want fame, didn't want the headlines. But he knew what they meant to boys in villages, to girls who coded by candlelight, to people who'd been told they needed polish before value. So he agreed to stand. On stage, one time. Meanwhile, the board wasn't done with him. They wanted clarity. Formally, will you accept the role of CEO or won't you? Asked Director Bola, adjusting his tie for the third time. Tunde sat at the round table, fingers laced. I already lead. Yes, but we need a title, public, confidence, press, stability. Tunde tilted his head. Or do you need me to wear the crown so no one questions who's holding the sword? The board went quiet. We're offering you a legacy, Bola pushed. I don't want your legacy, Dunda replied. I want a future. He stood, calm, certain. When you stop needing to control the narrative, you'll see who's really writing it. And just like that, he walked out. Amara wasn't in the office that day. She was at the hospital. Her mother had fainted while cooking. Low blood pressure, overwork, stress. When Amara rushed into the emergency room, everything that mattered shrunk down to that single image. Her mother hooked to an IV, asleep in a bed too big for her tiny frame. The nurse said she'd be fine, just rest. But Amara's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She hadn't told her mother about the national rollout yet. She hadn't even told her about the offer to speak on stage beside Tunde. That night, sitting beside the bed, her mother stirred. You look tired, she whispered. You scared me. Her mother smiled softly. You've done enough for me. You don't have to keep carrying me. I'm not carrying you, Amara said, voice cracking. You carried me, my whole life. Her mother reached out, squeezed her hand. I saw you on the news. You're building something big. Don't let me be the reason you ever stop. I'll walk away tomorrow if you need me, Amara said, tears falling now. Her mother laughed faintly. Then I'll get out of this bed myself and drag you back. They both laughed, then cried. The next morning, Amara walked into the building like a storm with quiet feet. She was ready. So was Tunde. They didn't practice speeches. They didn't rehearse smiles. They just stood side by side as the press flooded. In dot flashes, shouting, buzz. When the CEO introduced Amara and Tunde to the podium, the room fell silent. Tunde spoke first. I came here to open a gate, he began. I didn't expect to open the doors. But sometimes the world teaches you that standing still, listening and watching are more powerful than charging through titles. He looked at Amara. She didn't ask for permission. She just built. And when people tried to tear her down, she built again. That's what real leadership looks like. Then he turned to the cameras. I was offered a title. I declined it. Not because I'm afraid to lead, but because leadership without humility is a curse. I'll continue to lead, but I don't need a crown to carry people with me. Applause. Loud, earned, Amara stepped up. When I walked into this building, I was invisible. When I pitched my idea, I was doubted. When it worked, I was targeted. But here I stand, not because I fought harder than anyone else, but because I believed that impact matters more than status. She held up a farmer's phone. This app isn't mine. It belongs to every woman who's ever been told she's not enough. To every man too poor to be seen. It belongs to Nigeria. And it's just the beginning. Thunderous applause. The photo of them, side by side, smiling, no suits, no fear, broke the internet by noon. The builder and the gate, a symbol, not of a company, of a new culture. Backstage, after the cameras left, Tunde looked at Amara. You okay? She nodded. She's okay, and I'm okay. You made her proud. You made me proud, he blinked. Wait, that's illegal. I'm supposed to be the mentor here. They laughed. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a thin gold chain. My mother gave me this. Said when I found someone who reminded me of her, strong, stubborn, brilliant, I should pass it on. He held it out, Amara started. You sure? Very. She took it, wore it, not because she needed validation, but because she understood what it meant to be chosen by someone who never needed to speak loudly to lead. Sometimes the revolution isn't loud, and it just looks like you. 6 months later, the halls of Omofemi Holdings felt like a different world. Not because the walls were painted or the branding changed, but because the energy was honest, real. There were fewer locked doors, more listening sessions, monthly innovation, challenges open to anyone, even the canteen staff. Promotions that didn't care about family names, but community impact. They called it the gatekeeper culture. And at the heart of it was Amara, and Tunde AgriPay Lite had surpassed all forecasts. 12 states, over 120,000 rural users, a 72%. Improvement in transaction efficiency for villages previously offline. Her team had grown from 4 to 27, most from overlooked communities, all trained by her curriculum. One afternoon, while reviewing outreach data, a message popped up. The President's office would like to invite Ms. Amara Chaikere to the State House for a rural tech policy discussion. She dropped her pen. Another message followed. Recommendations submitted by Tunde A. Omofemi, she smiled. Later that evening, she found Tunde outside under the same jacaranda tree. He wasn't in a suit, just a loose linen shirt and sandals. You keep doing this, she said. Doing what? Opening doors for me. He looked up. You kicked the doors down yourself. I just removed the locks. She sat beside him. Do you ever regret not taking the CEO title? Every time I'm in a boring meeting, no, she laughed. But seriously, he looked at her. Calm. I didn't decline power. I redefined it. I don't need a glass office to lead. I just need one person, like you, to carry it forward. She stared at him. You're not going to stay, are you? He exhaled. They want me in Ghana to help build a transnational digital infrastructure hub. I've trained the next set of leaders here, including you. So this is a goodbye? He smiled faintly. It's a handoff. Amara didn't cry. She knew this was never about forever. It was about ignition. 2 days later, the company hosted a tribute ceremony. Small, internal, nothing like a press parade. Just staff, photos, and shared laughter. When Tunde stood to speak, he looked around the room and said, I wore a uniform so no one would expect anything from me. But it turns out, when you expect nothing, you see everything, he pointed, to Amara. She made me believe that building from the bottom doesn't make you small. It just makes your roots stronger. Then he stepped down, walked straight out the side door, and didn't look back. 3 weeks later, Amara stood in front of the National Assembly in Abuja. She was the youngest speaker that day, the only woman on the panel, and the only one not wearing a designer badge. She wore a simple white blouse and the thin gold chain he gave her. As she spoke about tech equity, rural empowerment, and real innovation, not the kind you pitch, but the kind you live, the room leaned forward. When she finished, someone asked, "How do we know this won't fade? That it's not just a phase," she replied, "because we've stopped waiting to be chosen. We're choosing ourselves." That's how legacies are made now. Applause thundered. That night she returned to her modest apartment, pulled out a box from under her bed, filled with old sketches, crumpled proposals, even rejection emails, and a note, folded, faded. "You don't need their spotlight. You bring your own." She taped it to her wall again, because every morning someone new would need to see it. Back in Ghana, Tunde walked a quiet path toward a new campus being built on red soil. A group of teens in uniforms were waiting to learn about coding. He smiled. Legacy wasn't a plaque or a press feature. It was a ripple. It was a tree. It was a girl with an idea and a boy who once stood at a gate. And now, it was a world that couldn't look away.